We've got DC Comics writer Marc Andreyko, and we want to talk about the state of the one, the only, Warner Brothers, the Batman. I'm Sasha Perlraver, and this is Screen Junkies News. Warner Brothers and their DC division have been working hard to develop a new solo Batman film called The Batman, to be released, I don't know, sometime in the next couple of years. With DC Comics writer Marc Andreyko here, we thought we'd dig into what we know and see what we can untangle. Hello, Marc.
Hello, Sasha.
Nice to have you here.
Always good to be here with you.
All right, so there's been so many ups and downs. We had Ben Affleck signed on to direct, then it was Matt Reeves signed on to direct, then Matt Reeves was gone, and now Matt Reeves is back. So what do you think we can expect from a Matt Reeves, the Batman?
I'm excited. I think Matt Reeves is a really great director. I think his remake of Let the Right One In, which was called Let Me In Here, I was really not looking forward to it because the original is so great. But he took that movie and made an American version of it. There are changes, but it's a really nice, it's a different flavor of the same story. And he's just a really elegant director, and he trusts his audience. There's a lot of stuff in the Let Me In where they don't explain it. You're required to fill it in, and he gets acting. The thing about these superhero movies is we need good performances because the special effects are always going to be great. We're going to believe robots turn into trucks and all that nonsense, but you need to care about these characters as human beings. And he's so good, and with especially Let Me In as children. If you can get great performances from children, you get older actors who have been around, you're going to be able to get great performances from them. So I think it's a good thing. I think we're going to get a really character-focused Batman movie.
What's interesting, too, is with Let Me In and with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, he had really high expectations based on the films that sort of predated his version. And now with Ben Affleck, who was the guy we thought would be in charge of the Batman, stepping into those shoes, I feel like he always really rises to the occasion. And
I like his fearlessness. He's not a director, so many directors have this public swagger, whether it's like a Michael Bay or a Zack Snyder, because you have to have the social media output. But Matt Reeves just goes into these movies and does the job. He doesn't get involved in like, oh, I'm going to give you teasers, and he doesn't make the movie about him. He makes the movie about the movie, and he's just so good at it. And I would love to see what he would do with given an $80, $100, $120 million budget, because Let Me In cost next to nothing, and even Dawn of the Planet of the Apes had a smaller budget than you would think for something like that. So giving him some wiggle room with some money and some real great support behind him, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a really good thing.
When you talk about wiggle room, Warner Brothers has said that they want to do an R-rated movie. Would this be that movie?
It could be. I've said before that I don't think you should go into making a movie saying we're going to make an R-rated movie. I think you let the rating serve the story. So I don't think making a Batman movie rated R just to make an R-rated movie is a good idea. But if the story lends itself to that, we basically had R-rated Batman movies. The Christopher Nolan ones, Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises were as close to R as you could get and be PG-13 with a level of violence and intensity. But once again, let the story decide that. Don't say, I want to, it's like saying we're going to have a baby in June. Well, we need 9 months to have a baby, so that's 3 months from now. You can't reverse engineer like that. It never works. It's why I don't see PG-13 horror films, because horror films you should have the opening for them to be R.
Yeah.
And it just feels like you're cutting off your nose to spite your face when the rating comes before the story.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, you said PG-13 rated horror movies, and my first thought was, God, Get Out is so good. And that has nothing to do with anything except that I love that movie. Anyway, so here's what we do know about the Batman. We know we've got Ben Affleck, supposedly. We know that we've got Joe Manganiello playing Slade Wilson / Deathstroke.
Yes, but if, part of the thing that we were talking about was Matt Reeves wanted more creative control over the movie, and he walked away when they weren't going to give it to him, and all this being rumor, of course, and he's come back. So if they're giving him more creative control, he might be doing a page one rewrite. So that doesn't, Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke could be like Shailene Woodley's Mary Jane. It could be something that, who knows if he's going to keep the same story or if he's going to bring in someone new. I personally would like him to bring in some villains that we haven't seen. Batman has such a rich and deep rogues gallery, and there's some big names that we haven't seen since the Joel Schumacher days, and there's some characters we've never seen. I would love to see Man-Bat. You could do a really personal story because it's the whole Frankenstein thing, the scientist who does this thing. I would love to see Mr. Freeze, capture the tragic Mr. Freeze from those great Paul Dini, Bruce Timm cartoons like Heart of Ice, where you gave him the wife and make him this sort of Phantom of the Opera character. You've got Mr. Zsasz. We haven't seen Catwoman yet. in this universe. And I know she's going to be in Gotham City Sirens,
Yeah.
but these movies are cross-pollinated, so maybe have Selena Kyle show up.
Sure.
And give the hint of that. You know, we haven't seen Clayface. I would love to see Clayface. A transforming villain would be cool. There's just so many. The Riddler. How much in this world, this crime world of like the Riddler and Black Mask being crime bosses, do a Heat sort of thing with Batman dealing with these weird, masked, crazy crime families.
I love those ideas. I think that would be awesome. But you're bringing up two things that were sort of ruined by the Schumacher movies. I mean, when you say the Riddler, I think of Jim Carrey. When you say Mr. Freeze, I think of Schwarzenegger.
But that's the argument that was had in the room when they said, let's do a Tim Burton serious Batman movie. They were thinking about 66. And I think you can get away with that now because of, and this ties in also to the R rating Batman, the success of Lego Batman has proven, the same way that Deadpool and Wolverine have proven you can do R-rated superhero stuff, has proven that you can do kid-friendly stuff. Batman is the only comic book character that you can do a 5-year-old version, and you can do a dark version, and you can do a musical version. There's a magic about that character that makes him transformational.
Musical Batman?
They tried to make one.
Musical Batman?
Jim Steinman, who wrote Bat Out of Hell with Meatloaf, wrote the music for it. You can find some songs for it online.
Meatloaf musical Batman?
Yeah, there was a song called "Where Does He Get These Wonderful Toys?" And you can hear it on. You can search for it on the internet.
Marc Andreyko is just a
so much
fountain of
worthless
information
knowledge.
and joy and happiness. I love what you're saying here. So, okay, let's create a crime syndicate. Build me a crime syndicate that the Batman can fight.
Well, I would do definitely Black Mask, because he's just a gangster who wears a mask.
Sweet.
I would do the ventriloquist, who is this multiple personality guy. He's this meek guy who has the dummy. It's a
creepy.
gangster dummy.
So creepy.
And
Love it.
It's the dominant personality.
Yeah.
You bring in some of the great crime bosses. You bring in the Penguin, because he's a crime boss, and he has an iceberg club. He's like a casino owner and stuff. Embrace some of the wildness of the comic book world, but you don't have to go full Schumacher or full Burton, but you can heighten the reality a little bit more and make it a little bit more superheroic. I think we've gone a little too far with being too gritty, realistic.
Never go full Schumacher. If there's any lesson you take away from today, let that be it. So we also—
Or make sure you breathe while you're doing it.
Yes. We also know that Lego Batman director Chris McKay has been brought on to direct Nightwing. Do you think that there is any possibility that these two stories will somehow connect?
I think this is all conjecture, but I think that in this is the gradual lightening of the DCU cinematically, I think Nightwing makes sense. Because in Batman v Superman, we saw that Jason Todd was dead. And in Suicide Squad, in the on-screen scrawls, it was confirmed that Harley Quinn helped kill Robin.
Right.
So the thing that was missing in Batman v Superman was, where's Dick Grayson? Because Dick Grayson's still alive. In the history of Batman, it was Dick Grayson was the first Robin, then Jason Todd, then Tim Drake. The thing about Dick Grayson that's great is he has a very similar origin to Batman. He comes from tragedy, his parents are murdered, but he grew up in a circus, and he's a very proactive, sort of positive force. And by growing up with Batman, he kind of sees what he doesn't want to become. There's a little bit of truth in the Lego Batman movie when Batman goes back to an empty cave and has Lobster Thermidor by himself. He's so consumed by his mission of justice that he can't let anyone else in. And Dick Grayson saw that, and Dick Grayson is much more the hero on the street. He's much more Batman's about justice. Dick Grayson's about preventing things from happening. And I think, and just his physicality, he's kind of like a mix between Batman and Peter Parker. There's a joy when he's Nightwing. And I think those guys, Chris McKay did such a great job with that first Lego movie, that I would love to see the sort of energy and the joy that Michael Cera brought to playing Robin. You don't want to go necessarily that far in live action, but having someone who learned from Batman and grew up with this father figure going in a different direction because he doesn't choose the dark, I think is a good thing.
Interesting. Well, the only way you can choose between the light and the dark is if you do have great villains, and we want to know who you would want to see have Batman go up against. What villains do you want to bring into this world? Let us know in the comments below. You can tweet us at SJ News. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can always click here for more internets. We'll see you again soon on Screen Junkies News.